Thomas Bennett was 20 years old and worked as an apprentice mapmaker in the small coastal town of Saltwind Bay. Every day, he drew careful lines on maps and marked important places for travelers. He loved his work, but sometimes he dreamed of finding something special, something no one had ever seen before. His master, old Mr. Crawford, had kind eyes and a white beard. Mr. Crawford taught Thomas everything about making maps. "A good mapmaker," Mr. Crawford often said, "must have patience and believe in mysteries." One evening in late autumn, Mr. Crawford called Thomas to his workshop. The old man held a strange piece of parchment in his weathered hands. The parchment looked very old, but it was completely blank. "Thomas," Mr. Crawford said with a gentle smile, "I have something special for you. This parchment belonged to my grandfather and his grandfather before him. It has been in our family for over 200 years. Thomas looked at the blank parchment carefully. "But, sir," he said, "there is nothing on it. It is empty." Mr. Crawford's eyes twinkled like stars. "Sometimes, my boy, the most important things are invisible until the right moment comes. Take this parchment to the sea when the moon is full. Hold it up to the moonlight and wait." Thomas felt excited but also confused. "What will happen?" he asked. "You will discover that for yourself," Mr. Crawford replied. "Trust in the magic of the world, Thomas. Not everything can be explained with logic." That night, Thomas walked to the rocky shore of Saltwind Bay. The full moon hung like a silver coin in the dark sky. Ocean waves crashed gently against the rocks, making a peaceful sound. Thomas pulled the old parchment from his coat and held it up toward the bright moonlight. At first, nothing happened. Thomas waited patiently, listening to the sound of the sea. Then, slowly, something amazing began to occur. Lines started appearing on the parchment, as if an invisible hand was drawing them. Thomas gasped with wonder. "This is impossible," he whispered to himself. The lines became clearer and clearer. Soon, Thomas could see a complete map forming on the ancient parchment. It showed the coastline of Saltwind Bay, but there was something different about this map. It marked a special spot on the shore, about 2 miles north of the town. Strange symbols surrounded the marked location. Thomas studied the map carefully under the moonlight. At the bottom of the parchment, words appeared in elegant handwriting. "When the tide is lowest, when the moon is fullest, the city of salt shall rise for those who believe." His heart began beating faster with excitement. "The city of salt?" he said aloud. "What could that mean?" The next morning, Thomas hurried to the town library. He searched through old books and stories about the area. Finally, he found what he was looking for in a book of local legends. The book told an incredible story. Long ago, there was a beautiful city made entirely of white salt. The city was built by ancient sea people who loved both the land and the ocean. But one day, the ocean became jealous and pulled the salt city down to the bottom of the sea. According to the legend, the salt city rises from the ocean floor only once each year. This happens during the lowest tide of the year, when the full moon shines brightest. The city appears for just one single night, then disappears again until the next year. Thomas felt his heart fill with hope and wonder. Could this legend really be true? There was only one way to find out. He waited patiently for 3 weeks. Finally, the night arrived when the tide would be at its lowest point of the entire year. Thomas packed some food, a warm coat, and a lantern. Most importantly, he brought the magical parchment. As the sun set, Thomas walked along the coast to the exact spot marked on his map. The moon rose full and bright above the ocean. The tide moved out further and further from the shore. Thomas had never seen the water so far away from the land. He sat on a large rock and waited. Hours passed slowly. Thomas began to feel tired and cold. Maybe it was just a story, he thought sadly. Maybe there is no Salt City. But then, just before midnight, something extraordinary happened. Far out in the ocean, where the water was deepest, a soft white glow began to shine beneath the waves. Thomas stood up and watched in amazement. The glow grew brighter and brighter. Suddenly, tall white towers began rising from the ocean floor. Walls appeared, then houses, then beautiful gardens. An entire city made of pure white salt emerged from the water, shining like diamonds in the moonlight. The city of salt was more magnificent than Thomas had ever imagined. Its buildings sparkled and gleamed. Bridges connected the towers like delicate lace. Everything was perfect and beautiful and magical. Thomas felt tears of joy in his eyes. He had found something wonderful, something that most people would never believe existed. He sat on his rock all night, watching the salt city shine in the moonlight and memorizing every detail. As dawn approached, the magical city slowly began to sink back into the ocean. Tower by tower, building by building, it disappeared beneath the waves. Soon, only calm blue water remained where the magnificent city had stood. Thomas walked home with a heart full of happiness. He had witnessed something truly special. When he reached Mr. Crawford's workshop, his master was waiting for him with a knowing smile. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Mr. Crawford asked gently. "Yes," Thomas replied, his voice filled with wonder. "I found magic. I found proof that the impossible can be real." From that day forward, Thomas became the finest map maker in all the land. But more importantly, he never forgot the lesson of the Salt City. He learned that the world is full of mysteries and magic for those who are patient enough to wait and brave enough to believe. Every year, when the lowest tide came with the fullest moon, Thomas returned to that special spot on the coast. And every year, the beautiful city of salt rose from the ocean just for him, reminding him that wonder and magic are always around us if we only know how to look for them. Do you believe in magic or mysterious things that science cannot explain?